My name is Ritu Java. I'm the CEO of PPC Ninja. And this is the title of my presentation. But if you notice outside, it said save 500 hours monthly with AI. And that number has actually gone up since the time I sent this presentation in like maybe a month ago, because I took tally and I was like, oh my God, how much time are we actually saving with AI? And it was, believe it or not, 1,000 hours by just replacing some basic, human tasks with AI automation, and also replacing skill sets that we didn't have. We didn't have something, and we just replaced that void with AI, and now we have so many more things that we can do in our agency. So yeah, a little bit about me. I started my e-commerce journey in 2010 on Etsy. I'm an engineer with a focus on data science and AI. I'm the CEO of PPC Ninja. We're an advertising agency with a focus on AI as well. I've been a speaker at many events like the Amazon Accelerate, Prosper Show, $1 Billion Seller Summit, and more. And then I also run this AI for e-commerce weekly newsletter, which is completely free. So if you want to take a screenshot of that QR code right there, or later on when you get the slides, it comes out on Tuesdays at 8:07 a.m. So here's a little bit under the hood of how we manage things at our agency. There's a few different pieces to how the operations use AI, with two aspects. One is human in the loop, and the other one is AI in the loop. So we try to do a bit of both, because there's going to be gaps, right? You can't have AI do everything start to finish perfectly. And as John was saying, it's only the beginning, right? It will get to a point where a lot of the tasks that we currently do will be completely replaced by AI. But for the moment, we do need humans to kind of guardrail it, and so on. So there are some aspects here that I wanted to point out. So first of all, AI employees. These are agents, custom GPTs, et cetera, that are already designed to do certain specific tasks, and we use them over and over again. So these are just employees that help us with many tasks. Then we have enhanced creativity tools. We have like a whole suite of tools, like a stack that we use for different effects and so on. So there's creativity that can be scaled that way. Professional content at scale. We try to use apps that will help us do a lot of AI work very quickly. Low-code, no-code productivity apps. So we like to write a lot of code without actually writing any code, because we get ChatGPT and Claude AI to do that stuff. So some of the examples are Google Apps Script. And for those of you who use Google in your businesses, you should know that there's a free coding environment called AppScript, which everybody has access to, and you can simply ask LLMs to write code that will just run on your drive, on your emails, on your if you have a data warehouse like BigQuery within the Google ecosystem, and so on your sheets, and so on. So we use a lot of that for improving our productivity. And then we also use out-of-the-box apps like Make.com, right? We haven't really delved in N8N too much yet, but it's just another alternative. So Make.com, that visual over there is pretty characteristic of a Make.com sequence, which can be plug and play, where you connect one app with another and get some things done in a sequence. So this is basically under the hood, but today I want to focus a little bit more on the AI creative side of things, because I know that a lot of people feel like creatives can't really turn out the way you want them to be. And I was there as well. Like, I would be like, what is up with these 16 fingers and like crooked noses, and I can't use AI for this product because it's not going to come out the way I want it to. But I want to prove us all wrong there, because there's ways to actually get it to where we want it to be. So I want you to meet Michaela. I don't know how to pronounce her name, but anyway, she is a bot. She is a 21-year-old bot living in LA, not far from here. And she has an Instagram page that has 2.4 million followers. And she posts regular stuff like, community things and stuff like that, fashion, things like that. But she is an ambassador to many large brands, including BMW and Calvin Klein. As you can see, these ads use Michaela and her likeness for promoting these brands. And if big brands like these are embracing AI influencers, then we can certainly do that, right? So this is just examples of how this is possible. Here are some more examples. This one on the left is an Adidas ad for a product that does not exist, right? These sneakers, these are like the floral print, they don't exist, but this was created 100% with AI. None of these people that you see in this video are humans. They're just generated by AI, and in fact, this video went viral, and people were asking Adidas for these pair of sneakers, which did not exist. And then Deer is doing something fun as well. They've tied up with another influencer, which is an AI influencer. Her name is Nunuri. She has about 500,000 followers, and Nunuri is now one of their brand ambassadors, and she actually uses their products and teaches people makeup. So all these fun things are happening right now. And the writing on the wall is clear. Like, we've got to adopt fast or get left behind, because this is the trend. A lot of what AI can do is to create an interruption to the pattern. We're used to seeing normal human beings, but if you see something different or fantastical or magical, our eyes are drawn to that. So why not take advantage of what AI can do instead of focus on what it can't do? So here are some examples of visuals that we've created at our agency. All of these were built with AI. As you can see, they're stunning. Like, they can be used in so many different places in your social media. They can be used on your listing. They have that element of lifestyle, right? So you can actually build these yourself. And the journey of getting to here is actually something that starts from text to go to images and then to video. So it's pretty straightforward, but along the way, you've got to know how to do prompting well, right? So it's all about prompting the right way and trying to use different types of apps to get where you want to go. So this is an example of, an Adidas example that I created. I built this pair of sneakers with AI, and then I brought it to life, like so. I got these little creatures to jump up and down, and as you can see, it's so amazing the way when they're climbing up, you can literally feel the cloth bouncing a little bit under their feet. So this is kind of cool, because this is a new trend, these micro people that bring any product to life. Like, you can imagine bringing interest to a boring product. Here's an example of a boring product, right? Like, what do you do with a docking station? How do you make AI turn this thing into something fun? Well, we racked our brains and we came up with some ideas, and we were able to do a pretty good job, I think. So here is the quick 10-second ad where we got little creatures climbing up and said, "We sweat the small stuff so you don't have to," right? So that's how you can turn something very boring and basic into something fun with the help of AI. And here's something for you automotive folks in the room, in case there are any left. You can make boring things like parts come to life. You can just say things like, "When detail matters, we're all hands on deck." This animation, I made it yesterday in 30 minutes, right? I started from scratch, from text to image, and then to animation. So this is some of the stuff that you can do with AI, which is pretty cool, and is a scroll stopper. That's what you want to do. So talking about the advantages of AI creatives, you don't need any more physical resources, right, to create fantastic advertisements or creatives. You can easily incorporate the element of fantasy, because that fantasy was something that was so hard to achieve. There were like literally courses on how to use your iPhone to have a certain effect and so on. No longer needed, right? You can always do that with a few prompts. You can rapidly iterate and prototype what the final look should be. One thing I want to say, though, is that if you try to make AI do something that must match exactly what you're thinking, it's not going to happen. So you've got to live with that element of, there might be a surprise element at the end of this. Maybe I can still use it a slightly different way. But if you're stuck with, oh, this is not turning out the way I imagined, well, then you're just not going to use AI, right? And you'll get left behind. So allow the element of fantasy and deviation to exist. Cost-effective production, accessibility for non-artists, even normal people like you and I can actually take a shot at this and be good, And then there's unlimited visual exploration. To give you an example, we have this client who sells acoustic pads for interiors, right? Just to get sound quality and so on in the room. And so how do you visualize sound? That was tricky. So we actually took like a prompting mindset of using elements that we've seen in our lives that kind of evoke certain concepts. Like, for example, how do you evoke sound with an image. So what we did was we took the example of Apple, because when Apple comes out with their headphones or whatever, speakers or whatever, they can actually visualize really well. So we just imitate what's good out there, right? So we actually started with a prompt that said, in the style of Apple. So of course we gave it our colors. We wanted it like deep purple and violet and all that stuff, but we said, make it in the style of Apple and so on. So I'll show you the prompt in just a bit, but this is kind of the kind of stuff you can get where you can imagine sound coming out of a speaker this way. Here's another example of, a lemon, it evokes freshness and so on. So if you have a product that maybe some sort of, mineral water or whatever that evokes freshness and so on, you can actually do this. I made this in Sora, which is OpenAI's text-to-video editor. And while you might argue that this defies physics in some ways, if you can look past it, great. But if you can't, then you can even work with this and use the stills very effectively. So even the still of the splash can be used in your photography on your website, and you can do fun stuff with it. So AI does come with its challenges, so let's talk about those. First of all, the biggest challenge is reference image consistency. So if you have like a bunch of images that need to look a certain way, there's going to be some challenges with keeping consistency across your reference image, but it's not something that is unsolved. There's a lot of progress being made in that direction, and so I showed you earlier about Michaela. Like Michaela is consistent. Her character is consistent across completely different brands like BMW and Calvin Klein. So there is progress being made. Stylistic control. You want all of your brand images to look a certain style. Like if you're selling candles, for example, you probably want the ambience to be the same or a similar style. And there's ways to do that, but that's one of the challenges where you have to kind of be careful about how you specify your prompts. Then, obviously, you have hallucinations where AI defies physics in many ways. There were some bloopers that I wanted to show you. There was one where like a paintbrush was just lifting off the existing paint, which was kind of, oh my God, what is that? So there's AI hallucination in creatives as well, which you kind of got to look past. Higher compute power. Obviously, these apps will charge you for every creation, and I know because I spend a lot of money on video editors and just creative editors, and I quickly end up spending a lot of money if I'm not careful with my prompts and so on. And then you also have prompt length capping. After a certain point, you'll be like, they're not going to allow you a very long descriptive prompt, and so that's another challenge. And then there's also image distortion from time to time. Here are some examples of images gone wrong, where I'm trying desperately to tell the AI, hey, I want this person to hold on to a USB-C cable and drive up to a port, just like a fireman would take like a fire hose or whatever. And this is what it produced. It was kind of funny, but I kind of like these cute little characters. I try to use them wherever I can. But anyway, these are ways in which images can be inconsistent from what you wanted. So how do you address the AI creatives challenge? So first of all, you want to learn prompt engineering for creatives. It's different from just when you talk to chat, in a normal sense. You want to think of it as multi-step processes, right? You want to take it to a certain point and then layer in other elements. You want to be able to define your character references. So if you have a human in that image, you want to make sure that human continues on. And so there's apps like MidJourney that will allow you to specify a character reference weight, which means what percentage of that character do you want to retain, and what percentage can be creatively tweaked or modified. Same thing with style references. If you have a particular style that you want and you want to keep that, you can actually set up mood boards inside of MidJourney where you can specify, 10, 15, 20 images and say, the collective of these 20 images is my style for this mood board. And so then you can just reference that mood board and say, make in the style of this. Just like Apple has a style, it's not one image, it's not two, it's like lots and lots of Apple images that collectively become what Apple is, right? So similarly, you can do style reference weights. In painting and out painting techniques, these are two different ways you can build AI images. In painting would be where you have a full image generated by AI, and then you zoom into a part of it that you want to replace a certain way. That's in painting. And out painting is that you have the product and you want to just build its background, and that's out painting. So you can use those techniques to kind of complete your images. So yeah, so then let's talk about simple prompting and complex prompting. For images, you can't just have a simple prompt because it just doesn't capture everything that you want to convey, right? So here's an example of me using Claude to convert a simple prompt into a more complex prompt, and that's totally fine. You can just say, hey, just fill in the blanks. Give me a long prompt for an AI model or a creative AI model to use. And so that's how it does it. Some best practices for images. You want to use multi-level, multi-moding prompting. You want to be able to use art direction terms, so like Dutch angle, bokeh, tilt shift, and so on. Visual styles. You should be able to name these styles and ask to produce images in that style. You want to give it lighting details, camera angles, technical specs, and also repurpose prompts that other creators have been creating. Just to tell you one example of a huge, huge library of prompts, this is called Prompt Llama, and this has, I don't know, thousands and thousands of images that are all llamas, which is so cute. I mean, you should check it out, even if you don't want to use any creatives. This is really cute, because every single one of these images, when you click on it, you get a prompt that describes that image. And there, you also see a placeholder, which you can replace with whatever you want. So for example, in this case, a painting of subject, standing in a mountain pass, blah, 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 blah. So I replaced that subject with cat, and that's what I got. So very similar likeness to the original, but it was able to generate it just the way it was designed. So definitely take advantage of those. Video prompting best practices. You want to establish a clear sequence of progression from point A to point B. So you want to be able to describe that. You want to describe camera behavior, whether it's a static shot, a slow pan, etc. You want to specify timing, like over how many seconds. Like even in Sora, you want to say scene 1, how many seconds before it morphs into scene 2, and so on. You want to use simple, clean prompts for video, not very complex ones. And then you also want to use a multi-step workflow. So this example is one I created for an ad where this is a Japanese shrine, and it's a drone shot. And I described the drone shot like this in 2 parts, which is in Sora. I described part 1 at 0 seconds and part 2 at 3 seconds. And so it builds the whole sequence there. Sorry, I think I missed one page. But here's the example of multi-step workflows. These are basically, taking a product, taking an existing completed image, and then swapping out the part that you don't want with your own product. So that's how I built this final look. Now, here is a list of my top AI editing tools. These are all visual editing tools: MidJourney, Crea, Kling, Sora, Vidu, Flare, Runway, Canva, CapCut, and Glam. I use these regularly, and they produce really, really good results. Like this ad that I built, no flowers were used in this. This was completely generated by me for a seeds brand. They sell seeds. Here's another one with a dog that I generated using Sora, and I even got Sora to have it chew on a dog chew, and then I used their product on top, and also added in all the callouts like "love you human," etc. That was assembled in Canva. Here's another one that I generated with Sora from seed to plant for like parsley seeds, and then used Canva to complete the look. So for those of you who have apparel, this is the age of virtual try-on. You can actually, there's many, many apps out there that can help you with virtual try-on. There was one that John was explaining earlier. Here's a different one where you can pick your dress, pick your model, and then it just does the thing. It's pretty cool. And this is for jewelry. Jewelry is pretty challenging because the sizes often don't match what the actual product size is. But with a few tries, you could train those models. Like I trained this model on basically by giving it 3 images of the product, and then it trained for 3 hours. It analyzed that product from different angles, put it together, and then I could just generate prompts with that, with that model. And it said, whatever, I could just describe the woman, and then it, kind of appeared on her ears. One last example of product placement in a beautiful background. That's, I don't remember which brand that was, but anyway, I just created the background, and look how the light falls and the shadow falls on the base. This was also used, an AI called Recraft. Now, if you want to automate all these things at scale, let's say you have very large catalogs, you have very large things to do multiple times, you can always use make.com. So this is a very simple workflow that starts with a Google spreadsheet where I have a list of prompts describing different images. And then those are simple prompts, but I want them to be extrapolated and made enriched, basically. So I take that input into ChatGPT in step 2, and then from there, it sends it to DALL-E, which is another AI image generation software, which has an API. And so this is connected to DALL-E, and then the final output of DALL-E is placed in a Google Drive folder. That's it, very simple. So when I run this, it just gives me all the images in a destination folder. Just to give you a little background on make.com, it has a bunch of connections, templates. It can basically connect anything to anything, it gives you a good starting point. Now, you might say, gosh, I don't know make.com, I don't know how to use it. Well, if you spend one weekend, that's what I did. I just binged one weekend. I said, I'm going to take all the tutorials out there, just going to teach myself make.com. Let's see what happens, And then by Monday, I was making my first make.com workflow, and it wasn't easy. The learning curve is definitely steep, but once you get past that, you're going to be on a roll. So here's the example of image creation at scale. This is my list in Google Sheets, and the make.com workflow is looking for any new rows added to this sheet, and then it just runs on a schedule, and then it just keeps putting images in my Google Drive folder like so. This is a screenshot of my actual Google Drive that has all the descriptions converted into images. So yeah, so that's the end of my talk. Now, if you guys are intimidated with running these kinds of ads yourself or creating creatives for your listing, social media, etc., and you want high-quality creatives at a fraction of the cost and time, then you can always use service providers like us to help you out. We also help you with automations like this that scale. And so if you need any of these, feel free to contact us. That's our QR code.